Can we choose not to grieve? In Metropolis, I have a reputation for being a good-for-nothing wastrel, but the truth is I hold double doctorates in medicine and finance. My grandfather, Theodore Sterling, named me the sole heir, but adopted Victoria Shaw as a smokescreen. Everyone assumed Victoria would marry me and inherit the Sterling fortune, but after 20 years as childhood friends, she was always cold to me. I thought she was just naturally reserved, until she repeatedly defended that poor student, even declaring publicly, "Today, anyone who bullies Leo Miller will pay for it 100 times over when I inherit the Sterling Corporation." Someone in the crowd retorted, "What about young Master Sterling?" She paused for a moment before offering, as if granting charity, "My heart belongs only to Leo. I'll give sincere money, but never my love." I calmly closed the video and dialed my grandfather's number. "Grandfather, for the alliance, I choose the Vance family. We can't afford to lose the northern market." My grandfather's voice was even. "But Isabel Vance is said to be a jinx cursed to bring misfortune to her parents, her husband, her children. Are you sure about this?" I traced the lines of my watch, worth millions. Since the dawn of time, who among those who reached the summit wasn't alone? I don't believe in fate. The only thing that's real is the power you hold in your hands. A hint of appreciation entered my grandfather's voice. "Good. Spoken like a true grandson of mine. By the way, that Shaw girl has gotten a bit too ambitious lately. Put her in her place. If she still doesn't get the hint, just get rid of her." I lowered my eyes. "Yes, sir." When Victoria was 16, the Shaw family went bankrupt. Grandfather took her in, and the outside world believed he was grooming her as the next heir. It was a plausible story. My own father was a notorious playboy who had produced only one useless heir who couldn't be propped up, me. Grandfather deliberately spread rumors of my incompetence, allowing me to see the true faces of all the wolves and snakes in the business world, before I took them all down in one fell swoop. Over time, however, Victoria truly began to believe she was the mistress of the Sterling family. She forgot her name was Shaw, not Sterling. Still, I would grant her a little dignity, a final act of warmth for the sake of our shared childhood. I pushed open the study door to find Victoria with a sour expression. "These little tricks of yours only make me more disgusted with you. I've been on that project for 3 months. It's in its final stages. Do you have any idea how much profit you've just jeopardized? Why are you so selfish? You can't compare to—" I understood her unfinished sentence. I couldn't hold a candle to Leo Miller. A half-smile played on my lips. "Victoria, if you can't handle it, you're free to leave the Sterling family. No one is stopping you." Rage flared in her eyes, her hands clenched into tight fists. "Sincere Sterling, you arrogant snobs do nothing but cause trouble from your high horse. In your eyes, I'll always be nothing more than a dog. You don't understand anything." I turned away, feeling only a sense of pity. What was there not to understand? Her father had died from a rare chronic illness, and she dreamed of conquering it. What she didn't know was that the disease was hereditary. 3 years ago, while pursuing my medical doctorate, I spent an entire year without a single full night's sleep, all to develop a growth factor that could inhibit the disease. But it was during that busiest time of my life that she fell for that poor student, Leo Miller. Love, it turned out, was as fragile as a joke. "Director Shaw, are you all right?" Leo Miller gently took Victoria's wrist, his face a mask of concern. I glanced at her and she instinctively moved to shield him. "Leo is just my assistant. Don't give him a hard time." Leo's eyes reddened. "I'm sorry, young Master Sterling. I was just so worried about Director Shaw." My voice was ice. "Is the Sterling family some kind of monster's den? What's there to be so worried about?" Leo froze. "No, I misspoke." "If you're angry, Mr. Sterling, you can hit me." At his words, I raised my hand, only to be blocked by Victoria. "Sincere, isn't that enough? Why do you love bullying the weak so much?" Suppressing the bitter sting, I scoffed. Her lips parted and closed, her face pale, but she offered no defense. Just as she had saved me when I was kidnapped years ago, she was now saving the poor, timid Leo Miller. Victoria just wanted to be a hero, protecting one weakling after another. That was why when Leo's financial aid was cut because his grades didn't meet the standard, she blamed me for being stingy. When Leo deliberately sent a huge bouquet of roses knowing I was severely allergic and landing me in the hospital for a week, she called me narrow-minded and said I thought the worst of people. At a charity event, he deliberately slipped a ring she had given him into my suit pocket, then feigned bewilderment when she appeared. Victoria grabbed my wrist, her grip like a vice. "Sincere Sterling, have you no shame? Do you think stealing the gift I gave Leo will accomplish anything? That gift was a symbol of my feelings for him. You can take everything, but I will never love you." Leo shook his head frantically, his face a picture of terror. "Director Shaw, I gave it to Mr. Sterling. It has nothing to do with him. Back then, I wanted to believe she was just being deceived, in other words, that she was still stupidly in love. So I suppressed my anger and said, 'Let's check the security footage.' When the video played, showing Leo furtively slipping the ring into my pocket, he clutched the hem of his shirt, stammering incoherently. I'd just never seen such fine clothes before. I couldn't help but touch it, and the ring must have fallen in. Director Shaw, I didn't do it on purpose. I really need this job. It was illogical, full of holes." But Victoria's expression softened. She looked at me. "It was just a misunderstanding, Sincere. Let's just drop it. That familiar, intimate name." My heart went cold. The last time she'd called me that was when we were escaping from our kidnappers. She had taken a stray bullet for me. Crying out, "Sincere," run the softest part of my heart felt like it had been torn to shreds. Victoria, who had always disdained using cheap tricks, had abandoned her principles for Leo Miller. And in doing so, she shattered my last lingering shred of affection. From that day on, Leo was always by her side. For all these years, Victoria never remembered what I was allergic to. Yet she had every single oleander in the company removed for Leo's sake. She never celebrated any holidays, yet on Valentine's Day, she watched fireworks over the ocean with him. She even took Leo to the French-style manor my grandfather had spent $1 billion building for me. When I arrived at the manor with my bodyguards, Leo was placing a crown of roses on Victoria's head. My voice was as cold as ice. "Victoria, this manor was my grandfather's wedding gift to me. She had dared to rip out my favorite white willows and plant the roses I despised most." Upon hearing my voice, Leo quickly snatched the flower crown off her head and knelt, banging his head on the ground. Thump, thump. "Young Master Sterling, I'm so sorry, it's all my fault. Please punish me." After a few knocks, his forehead was bruised and bleeding. Victoria, her heart aching for him, helped him up, her tone tinged with annoyance. "Sincere Sterling, you've had everything your entire life. Why must you deliberately make things difficult for Leo? It's not a big deal. We'll plant the willows back for the wedding. You're marrying me anyway. What does any of this matter?" Looking at her put-upon expression, I found it laughable. She seemed to think I was set on her, that even though I was the rightful heir of the Sterling family, even, with countless powerful and wealthy families eager to marry their daughters into our family, she arrogantly believed I would wait for her forever. I couldn't help but let out a derisive snort. "Victoria, are you really so sure I'm going to marry you?" The air froze for a few seconds before Victoria let out a sarcastic laugh. "Sincere, don't you think that sounds ridiculous? Who else would you marry? The Sterling family's fortune is tied to you. Do you think the old master would let you marry some unknown woman?" I was about to tell her I had already chosen an alliance, but she cut me off impatiently. "Stop this nonsense. At grandfather's birthday celebration, I'll bring up our marriage, all right?" A flash of jealous hatred crossed Leo's eyes, quickly hidden. He sighed softly. "I truly envy Mr. Sterling getting to marry a wonderful woman like Director Shaw. I wonder if I'll ever be so fortunate in my life." Seeing his dejected look, Victoria's eyes filled with pity. "The Sterling family has been good to me. I will help them protect their legacy. But I know that gratitude isn't love." Leo's eyes filled with emotion, the two of them locked in a tender gaze. I had completely lost my patience. Is that enough? Victoria's gaze was cruel and cold. No, sincere Sterling, even if I marry you, the one in my heart will always be Leo. You will be nothing more than a figurehead. Don't let me see you hurt him in any way. Leo pulled her into his arms. Young Master Sterling, please, just grant us this. My eyes turned completely cold. Did she really think I couldn't live without her? It seemed that last bit of dignity was unnecessary after all. I spoke in a frigid tone. As of this moment, these two are forbidden from ever setting foot in this manor again. Victoria took a deep breath, her voice sharp. Fine. Sincere Sterling, don't you regret this? Watching her walk away hand in hand with Leo, I gave a self-mocking laugh. Regret? For her, I had already defied convention far too many times. I, from a dynasty of financiers, insisted on studying medicine, earning 10 lashes from my grandfather's cane, yet I clenched my teeth and felt no regret. I fought a triad boss to win back her family's heirloom at an auction, a bullet missing my heart by less than an inch, and I felt no regret. Now I had finally made the right choice. What was there to regret? It turned out that loving someone could be such a long-term affair, but letting go was so very easy. Back at the Sterling residence, the butler bowed his head respectfully. Young master, your wedding suit is ready for a fitting. As I looked at the exquisitely designed and tailored suit, the maids around me gasped in awe. It truly is a bespoke masterpiece, like a work of art. The young master will surely be the happiest groom wearing this. I pulled at the corner of my lips. How could value be equated with happiness? But fortunately, value would never betray you. When I put on the suit, the buttons wouldn't fasten. The designer frowned, pulling up his design tablet. Strange, we followed the measurements sent by the Sterling family exactly. They're only a month old. There shouldn't be such a large discrepancy. My expression didn't change as I took the tablet. A string of unfamiliar numbers, belonging to none of my past fittings. The suit's customization had been overseen by Victoria. It was obvious whose measurements these were. Sure enough, Victoria rushed in, looking flustered. Her eyes darted around, but she still tried to sound defiant. I must have remembered them wrong. Just have them alter it. She knew this designer's schedule was packed solid, that he was only in the country for a month as a favor to my grandfather, and that at most he could only make minor adjustments. She knew how much this wedding meant to me, how I wanted every detail to be perfect. But she had done it anyway, just to make Leo Miller happy. I calmly set the suit down. Thank you for your hard work, Master Carl. My best wishes to your next groom. Master Carl, who had looked annoyed, now showed a flicker of sympathy. Sincere, I wish you happiness as well. Victoria took a few steps forward, her voice uncharacteristically soft. Sincere, a suit from another designer will be just the same. It's not like I'd hold it against you. I curled my lip in a sneer. The wedding venue had to be a compromise. The suit had to be a compromise. In her eyes, everything about me was always a compromise. But everything she gave Leo Miller was the very best. As she wished, I would marry Isabel Vance. I would no longer have to compromise, and she would finally get her wish. Having severed all ties, I stopped contacting Victoria. But then, she sought me out. A bouquet of white willows was presented to me. In the past, this was her way of making amends. She'd give me my favorite thing from my favorite person, and I would forgive her. But now, I was completely indifferent, so I didn't take them. Victoria's brow furrowed even deeper. Leo was afraid you wouldn't be able to accept this right away. He bought these for you himself. It cost him half a month's salary. I ignored her and picked up my teacup. How cheap. Her face darkened. Sincere Sterling, is money the only thing you know? It's disgusting. Watching her leave in a huff, I smiled. The tea she had been drinking, Snow Mountain Emerald, cost $100,000 an ounce and was nearly impossible to buy. The silk trench coat she wore, custom made and incredibly delicate, cost $300,000, yet she had casually used it to shield Leo from the sun. For the first time, I reflected, Had I given her too much? Things others fought tooth and nail for, she obtained with ease, and so she never learned to cherish anything. The banquet was held on the MSC cruise ship. Grandfather had publicly announced that he would be revealing the happy news of my marriage at this event. So everyone who was anyone showed up. Victoria arrived, with Leo Miller in tow. The shrewd old hands in the room exchanged glances. Everyone had assumed Victoria was marrying me. Bringing this man was a slap in the face to the Sterling family. But there were always a few fools who would sidle up to her to curry favor. Director Shaw, so young and capable, truly a pillar of the Sterling Corporation. Victoria's expression darkened, a flash of displeasure on her face. I smirked. She saw herself as the mistress of the Sterling family. Why would she appreciate a compliment like that? Besides, she had never been allowed to touch the core business of the Sterling Corporation. Nominally, it was run by my grandfather, but in reality, I had held it firmly in my grasp for years. Leo Miller approached me with a deferential air, wanting to toast me. I calmly looked at his contrived expression. "You're not worthy to offer me a toast." He moved closer, his voice low and venomous. "So what if you're the young master? Her heart still belongs to me." With that, he pretended to stumble, grabbing my suit. We both crashed into the champagne tower. Shards of glass dug into my skin, and amber-colored liquid soaked my pure white suit. Slap. Victoria rushed over and struck me across the face. A clear handprint instantly bloomed on my pale skin. "Sincere Sterling, I warned you. Don't touch Leo." Leo Miller lay on the ground, frowning as if he had suffered a great injustice. The fury in Victoria's eyes intensified. She grabbed my throat, her grip tightening. "Apologize." The bodyguards finally reacted, pulling her off me. I coughed violently. The guests whispered among themselves. "Looks like they've had a falling out. Is the wedding announcement still on? It must be a done deal that Victoria's inheriting the company. How else would she dare to bully the young master so openly?" Suppressing my rage, I stood up from the broken glass and walked onto the stage. Today, I have 3 announcements to make. First, the engagement between myself and Miss Victoria Shaw is officially terminated. Second, I will be formally taking over the Sterling Corporation, and Miss Shaw is hereby fired. Third, Miss Isabel Vance and I are engaged. We will be married next month. The words were a bombshell dropped into the crowd. What? Isn't she the jinx? Has Mr. Sterling Sr. lost his mind? The Vance family is immensely powerful. They could swallow the Sterling Corporation in a heartbeat. This young Master Sterling is a useless wastrel. How could he possibly hold his own? Ignoring the commotion, I walked straight to Victoria, picked up a glass of red wine, and threw it in her face. Leo's eyes widened. "How dare you?" A bodyguard immediately pulled him away. My gaze was calm. "Victoria, as for your boyfriend deliberately causing me to fall and you striking me, I will be packaging the video evidence and sending it to my lawyers. You're a woman, so I won't hit you back. But this wine, consider it a down payment on the interest." As if waking from a dream, she grabbed my arm. "Sincere, are you insane? Don't you know about Isabel Vance's curse? Even if you're angry with me, you can't go looking for death." I violently shook her hand off, my voice frigid. "It has nothing to do with you." Her face cold, she blocked my path again. "Besides that, on what grounds are you firing me? Do you know anything about finance? Are you going to let everything my grandfather built go down the drain?" "What grandfather? I only have one grandson." Theodore Sterling emerged from a side room, his face stern, his eyes sharp. Victoria immediately lowered her head. "Mr. Sterling Sr., He ignored her, raising a glass to the guests. "Everyone, I am an old man. Ever since Sincere earned his double doctorate in finance and medicine 3 years ago, I've had him in the field, gaining experience. From what I've seen, the undersea tunnel, the bioengineering project, he has handled them all flawlessly. I can now confidently hand the Sterling Corporation over to him." The guests erupted in a wave of shock. The undersea tunnel project cleared at least $1 billion. I was remarking at the time how the old master was still sharp as a tack. Who knew it was young Master Sterling a first bid on the bioengineering project? But the Sterling proposal was just too strong. The student has truly surpassed the master. The compliments flowed endlessly, making the earlier doubts seem like a hallucination. I calmly raised my glass to the guests. Grandfather once said that these people fawn over the powerful and trample on the lowly. By staying in the shadows, you can see them more clearly. And so, Victoria had been my shield. The only time in my life I was ever punished was also because of her. My grandfather's eyes had been full of disappointment. Either you treat her like a plaything, or you completely master her. But you actually tried to win her over with devotion. How stupid. I pulled my thoughts back to the present. Yes, luckily I hadn't been stupid to the very end. Victoria took 2 unsteady steps toward me, looking utterly disbelieving. Just moments ago she had been radiant, surrounded by a crowd of sycophants. Now, aside from Leo Miller still at her side, a vacuum had formed around her. What was even harder for her to accept was that the projects she had admired so much, which she believed were led by my grandfather, were actually my work. She looked dazed, and after a long moment, she spoke in a hoarse voice. Sincere, why didn't you tell me sooner? If I had known, I wouldn't have. Grandfather, Sincere, my apologies for being late. A beautiful figure appeared, a white gown accentuating her noble elegance. It was my fiancée in name, Isabel Vance. She presented a box to me, her star-like eyes slightly downcast. Sincere, a small gift. I hope you like it. I took the box and opened it. Inside was a brooch of a white willow, fashioned from diamonds. Countless precious gems sparkled, any one of which would have been a treasure at a typical auction. I closed the box. Thank you, Miss Vance. It's very thoughtful. She glanced at Victoria, her words pointed. I heard you like white willows, Sincere. The ordinary kind wouldn't suit you, so I had this made. You deserve the best. Hearing this, Victoria's competitive spirit flared. How arrogant. You think money can solve everything? You should see who he truly loves. Isabel's expression remained serene. It's simply that I have the ability to give him the best. As for love, I will give him all the respect and time he needs, not sarcasm and ostracism. Am I right? Victoria's face turned deathly pale, but she still looked at me with a sliver of hope. My expression was placid. Miss Shaw, remember to move out of the Sterling villa. A woman of your high principles wouldn't want to take advantage of the Sterlings, I presume. Victoria's expression turned ugly, but she forced herself to answer. Of course. Watching her almost frantic retreat, I felt nothing but a dull emptiness. This was only the beginning. With Isabel Vance present, the guests' chatter quieted to a whisper. Everyone knew this was true old money, a family with a century of wealth, power, and social standing. No one had expected that for a mere banquet, the head of the Vance family would personally attend and show such respect. I thought the Vance family wouldn't care about this alliance at all. I can't believe she came herself. And she brought a gift. Old Master Chi's grand birthday last year didn't get this kind of treatment. But she's ruthless. She's devoured countless companies, big and small, over the years. How long can the Sterling family last? Ignoring the whispers, she suddenly leaned closer to me, a fragrant scent washing over me. It's too crowded to talk here. Care for a walk on the deck? The sea breeze lifted her long hair, obscuring her eyes. For a fleeting moment, Isabel's gaze seemed so soft. It must have been a trick of the light. I smiled. Thank you for speaking up for me today, Miss Vance. The gift is beautiful. Her eyes flickered, a hint of sadness in their depths. You're being so formal. Are you dissatisfied with me? I looked up and read a trace of hurt on her proud face. Not at all. You handled it perfectly, Isabel. I smoothly corrected my address. She playfully covered my eyes with her hand. Sincere, we're getting married. I don't need this false politeness. As long as you're happy, I can move at your pace. She was very close. She smelled wonderfully of jasmine, mixed with a faint hint of coffee. A corner of the dress beneath her coat was visible, and it was stained with coffee. Her eyes were bloodshot with exhaustion. Could it be that she had rushed here at the last minute? The helicopter on the deck confirmed my suspicion. I spoke, a little apologetically. You really didn't need to rush over. It wasn't an important occasion. She shook her head, her gaze serious. It was very important. Being late was already unforgivable, but the meeting in France was impossible to postpone. I hope I didn't spoil your evening. A cold, proud corporate titan who, behind the scenes, seemed so genuine and adorable. She was certainly charismatic. Suppressing my irregular heartbeat, I smiled. Not at all. I'm very happy you could make it. The setting sun cast a golden glow over the pair of us. A perfect match. Isabel left via helicopter, but not before leaving me with the deed to a plot of land. A gift for you. Do whatever you like with it. I signed my name, my smile gentle. Isabel, you really know how to give gifts. All my favorites. Her eyes shone, brimming with affection. Then I'll have to keep trying my best. Returning to the presidential suite on the ship, I was about to open the door when a figure emerged. It was Victoria. I wasn't surprised. I just watched her calmly. In just a few hours, she looked as if she had been through an ordeal. Her usually impeccable suit was wrinkled. Strands of her perfectly coiffed hair had fallen loose, and her eyes were bloodshot with fatigue. She closed her eyes, hiding the unwillingness and humiliation within them. Sincere, if you just wanted me to realize I love you, you've succeeded. I know I've done many wrong things, but please give me a chance to make it up to you. Don't give up on yourself and marry Isabel Vance. You won't be happy. I let out a short, humorless laugh. In what capacity are you saying this to me? Victoria, a character like you. If I hadn't begged my grandfather to bring you here, you wouldn't even have the right to stand before me. Love me? Are you worthy? She looked up disbelieving and staggered back 2 steps. But before you... My gaze was cold. Before? I must have been blind. Your background, your abilities, your resilience... You're inferior to me in every way. The fact that I ever liked you is a disgrace. Now I'm going to marry Isabel Vance. Victoria, stay out of my sight. Once this ship docks, we will be worlds apart. Watching her face grow paler and paler, I smiled and turned to leave. She had lost only the first layer of her halo and she couldn't take it, crawling back to me. What would happen when she had to live without money? Would Leo Miller still stand by her? And then there was her hereditary illness, which was becoming harder to suppress. I dialed the research institute. I'm pulling the funding for the growth factor research. It's not a profitable venture, so why waste the resources? In a Swiss chateau, countless white willows swayed silently. The flowers, pure white and flawless, bloomed from paper-thin bracts, carrying a faint, sweet fragrance. Isabel saw the smile on my face, and her expression softened. I heard you liked them, so I started preparing these a long time ago. The white willow is a symbol of happiness, and it's their blooming season right now. I thought if I planted enough, if I just persevered, I could wait for the day you'd remember me and find the happiness I've always wanted. I was a little surprised. Did we know each other before? She looked at me. The tenderness in her eyes threatening to drown me. Many years ago, a skinny little boy, but a champion swimmer, pulled me from the waves of the Yaslan Sea, like a little prince who would protect me forever. I smiled gently. So that was you. You cried so hard back then, but now you've grown into someone who never shows her emotions. Time is a magical thing. She blushed, a rare sight. Well, I can't swim, but you were cruel. It was love at first sight for me. And you just handed me over to the paramedics and ran off. Remembering what I was like as a child, my lips curved into a smile. You were so dark and skinny back then. Who knew you'd grow up to be so beautiful? If I had known... If you had known what? She looked at me, her loving gaze filled with starlight. I turned slightly, my eyes shifting. Maybe I would have just married you then and there would have been no Victoria Shaw. Her gaze softened as she took out a ring, her expression sincere. Sincere, I know it's usually the man who proposes, but I feel I must ask you. Being with you has always been my dream. I promise that I and the entire Vance family will always be your strongest support. I will protect you, care for you, and be responsible for you for the rest of our lives." Countless white willow petals drifted down, gilded by the setting sun. A golden light shimmered in my eyes. "I do." Victoria saw the growing annoyance in Leo Miller's eyes, and a sense of panic began to set in. She had applied for countless jobs over the past few days, only to be rejected by all of them. She had some savings she wanted to use to start a business, but a good opportunity never arose. Suddenly, a Maybach pulled up in front of her. It was her childhood friend, Penelope Hayes. "Vicky, I just got here from the US. I heard what happened and rushed right over. Come with me, this is no place for you." Victoria felt a sense of daze. In these past few days, she had faced more rejection and ridicule than in her entire life. Those so-called friends who used to flock around her now couldn't wait to grind her into the dirt. Only Penelope. She grasped Penelope's hand as if it were her last lifeline. "Penny, it really is only you." Penelope set her up in a villa and wiped away her tears. There. I believe in your abilities. You'll make a comeback sooner or later." Seeing their new accommodations, Leo became much warmer to Victoria again. "Director Shaw, I was just too anxious before. After all, I lost my job too." He lowered his head sadly, just like he used to. Only this time Victoria ignored him and said coldly, "You can stay for now. Move out once you find a job. My heart belongs to Sincere. I will get back on my feet, and then I will be with him again, in grand style." Leo's face twisted for a moment. Suppressing his resentment, he forced a smile. "Mr. Sterling will surely forgive you." In his mind, however, he was already plotting his next move. Just then, Penelope entered, dangling the keys to a Hummer. "It's inconvenient without a car. I just got a new one, so you can use this for now." Victoria nodded her thanks, failing to see the intense gleam that flashed in Leo's eyes. Penelope sat down beside Victoria. "By the way, Vicky, you were asking me about potential projects, weren't you? I have some inside information. The Seaport City Research Institute is starting up a cell engineering project again. But it's risky. I found some other options for you, too. These are more stable." Victoria looked at the documents, her brow furrowing tighter. She couldn't believe Sincere had truly given up on her. The tragedy was she realized she had truly fallen in love with him. In her dreams she saw his gentle smile, his angry face. She remembered how good he had been to her, attending to every detail of her life, even cooking for her despite having hands that had never known a day of labor. He had given her the spotlight in her career, but she hadn't cherished it. Now, every day felt like being entangled in countless threads. The more she struggled, the deeper she sank, each strand a sliver of pain that cut to the bone. She had to make him see her in a new light, to win back his heart. With that thought, she clenched the file on the cell engineering project. This is the one. At first, the project went smoothly. Seeing the proposal, Victoria's heart began to relax. But just 1 month in, she woke up one morning to the 4 words that left her stunned. Project terminated. She frantically dialed a number, speaking the moment it connected. "What happened?" The voice on the other end was choked with tears. "It was human experimentation. It's illegal. Everyone involved has been arrested, and all our money is gone." Victoria slid to the floor. It was over. Everything was over. She would never have a chance to make a comeback. She was getting further and further away from Sincere. No, there was still Penelope. She would surely help. Victoria scrambled upstairs only to hear a familiar moan. "Who's prettier, Vicky or me?" "You, of course, baby." A moment later, the door opened and Penelope walked out, her clothes in disarray. Seeing the devastated Victoria, she gave a sarcastic smirk. Victoria rushed forward and grabbed her eyes growing wild. "The cell project is finished, Penny. Can you lend me some more money? $1 million is all I need." Penelope burst out laughing. "You fool, do you think I'm running a charity? Can you even pay it back? Back in the day you were just a kept woman, but you acted so high and mighty. Now I've broken all your bones. You'll never get back up again. Victoria suddenly realized something and tried to lunge at her, but was restrained by bodyguards. Throw her out, and that man in the room too. Either give him a little money, or send him to Uncle Lee for some fun. Let's see which one he chooses. Victoria was beaten and thrown out. The pain all over her body was a reminder of what a failure she was. She staggered to her feet, only to collapse uncontrollably back to the ground. When she woke up, a kind stranger had taken her to the hospital. The doctor shook his head grimly. "Miss, you have a rare condition called Hock disease. There are currently fewer than 10 cases in the country. The growth factor developed by Dr. Sincere Sterling was effective at inhibiting this disease. Unfortunately, that research project was shut down a month ago. I'm very sorry, but you will likely be bedridden for the rest of your life." Victoria's gaze was empty. She suddenly remembered, a long time ago, Sincere telling her he wanted to study medicine. What had she said to him then? "You're a sham at finance, and now you want to study medicine? Can you stop being so selfish all the time?" At the thought, an uncontrollable sob escaped her, a sound so desperate and helpless that everyone who heard it looked at her with pity. Victoria finally understood what a precious thing she had lost, and she would never have a chance to get it back. The assistant handed me a file. "Mr. Sterling, Victoria Shaw has moved out of the villa. She took her salary from over the years." I calmly signed my name. "Is everything you were told to arrange ready?" The assistant nodded. "Miss Shaw has moved into Leo Miller's apartment. We have already cut off all of Mr. Miller's sources of income. Additionally, Miss Shaw's good friend is about to return from the U.S. Miss Hayes is known for her loyalty and sisterhood. Miss Shaw will not suspect a thing." My friend Julian Pierce peeked over the sofa. Sincere crushing someone like her would be instant. Why go to all this trouble? I watched the steam rise from my teacup. "You don't understand. Crushing her isn't painful. What's painful is taking away everything she values, one piece at a time. Give her a glimmer of hope, then plunge her into deeper despair. That is true suffering, endless and infinite." Julian shivered. "That's terrifying. I'd better never get on your bad side." I smiled. "It's not terrifying, it's fair. Everything in this world is fair. No one can escape it." Isabel Vance frowned slightly at the photo on my phone of a man covered in sores. "What is this thing?" I smiled gently. "You know him, Leo Miller." A flicker of disgust, almost imperceptible, crossed her eyes. "Then he deserved it." I turned to look at her intently. "Not deserved. Fair. I gave him 2 paths. He couldn't part with wealth and luxury, so he chose the one that led to certain death. It's fair." Isabel smiled and hugged me from behind. All right. As long as you're happy. By the way, I never thought you'd develop new energy on that plot of land I gave you. I thought you'd do something like real estate." I moved closer to her, tracing the lines of her face. "It was a great opportunity. It's just a shame the land was too small. If it were bigger, it would have made a fortune." She smirked. "That it would. If I had been a bit more generous, Sincere would be rolling in it by now." 6 months later, the assistant handed me a proposal. "The Vance family's new energy project has lost too much money. Those old geezers on the board are feeling the pain." I rotated my wrist lightly, my expression calm. A few years ago it was just Isabel, so there was nothing they could do about the losses. But didn't those old fools bring back an illegitimate son 6 months ago? With Isabel making such a huge mistake, it's time for her to step down. Here's what you do. Communicate with the Vance Corporation that we'll buy this project at a low price. Consider it our support for the young master." The assistant bowed his head with a smile. "Yes, Mr. Sterling." When Isabel, her eyes simmering with rage, stormed in to confront me, I was smiling as I poured her a cup of tea. "What's wrong? Calm down." Her gaze was venomous, but her expression returned to a calm mask. "It was you." I nodded. "Yes, Isabel. You're a titan of traditional industries. Why did you have to stick your nose into a new sector? And not only that, you plagiarized my ideas, gifting me a small piece of the land you had acquired. So naughty of you." Her expression grew even darker. "When did you find out?" I chuckled softly. very early on. From the moment the great Vance family deigned to propose an alliance, I was suspicious. Your private helicopter had plenty of changes of clothes, yet you deliberately wore the one with the coffee stain, the white willow brooch you gave me. I seem to recall a famous gigolo in France has a similar one, but of a rose. The courtyard full of white willows when you proposed. You said you planted them long ago out of a secret love, but the soil was still damp. And your story about me saving you, all those details were things I made up on the spot, yet you confirmed every one. Oh, there's just too much. I can't list it all. Isabel's face grew uglier and uglier, until her glare felt like a physical force, but I was relaxed and at ease. Isabel, you were brilliant before, taking control of your family's company, but you were raised to be greedy and overconfident. You thought your plan was perfect, or rather, you thought the Vance Corporation was a behemoth, that you could afford to lose and that I couldn't touch you. And in truth, I can't shake the Vance Corporation. But shaking you, that I can work towards. You see, I've merged your new energy project with my new AI technology. They complement each other, covering all of the Vance Corporation's losses. Your shareholders have even invited me to a celebration banquet. Her lips pressed into a thin line and she looked almost defeated. You've won. I gathered my documents and shook my head gently. No, it was just a choice, and choice is always fair. However, I leaned closer, my eyes holding a mechanical coldness. I really am disgusted by your hypocritical facade and your high and mighty gaze. It's nauseating. Bodyguards entered and escorted her out. I was not the little prince in Isabel's eyes, to be raised into a useless man inside a fake crystal ball. Standing at the top of the tallest skyscraper in Metropolis, I looked out over the entire city. It was beautiful, power and money. They truly never betray you. The end.